Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our 9-month Ultimate World Cruise adventure. And today we are in Luanda, Angola. And for those of you who've been following along with us, first of all, thank you very much. You know that we've been able to find the joy and positivity in almost every place we visited. Well, that's a little different today. We have a bit of a harrowing tale to tell, and I think it was the first time you were ever afraid.
I was afraid, yes. Well, welcome to Living Phase 2.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Nancy, and we're empty nesters striving to live life to the fullest.
And we're living that full life aboard Royal Caribbean's 9-month Ultimate World Cruise on Serenade of the Seas.
Well, we really are living that full life here in Luanda. So, Luanda is the capital of Angola. They speak Portuguese here. Now, they also do speak English, but Portuguese is one of the main languages that they speak. And it's a very expensive city to live in. They make their money off of gas, off oil, off diamonds. In fact, a very small apartment can cost upwards of $13,000 a month. So it's very expensive to live here.
It was rated as I think the second most expensive city in the entire world to live.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Now, they've just recently gone through a civil war. They had a civil war from 1975 to 2002. And so they're just really kind of coming out of that, and just don't have everything set up, and not everything is in place just yet.
So yes, I agree, Nancy. They're still really struggling from that immersion from that civil war. And we even made a comment that we felt like the people of Angola are still kind of learning how to take care of themselves and their country, much less a large group of tourists coming in.
Right.
So that I think they're struggling there a little. Well, we struggled trying to find a tour or find out what to do here. I did a ton of research, kept looking, and really what kept coming up was simply city tours of Luanda. So what we did find, though, we ended up finding a safari tour, and we love safaris. So we thought, oh, we can actually get out of the city, see the Angolan countryside, see more of the country than just the city. And so that's what we booked, and we booked it through Get Your Guide. Now, you've heard us talk about Get Your Guide in the past. Get Your Guide deals with local guide and tour companies, and so we found the safari, we booked it, and then we were all set up for our arrival in Angola. Well, when we arrived, we got off the ship promptly, and it was a industrial port, but they had some dancers and things.
They did. That was sweet. But we had to take a shuttle, though, from the ship to get through the industrial port to kind of a common square where everyone was meeting their tours at. And they also had a little straw market set up in that square.
Right. And well, this is where we started to notice the first problem. And that was there was no guide company there for us. Now, there was another guide company there. They primarily worked through Viator, but the Get Your Guide, the name of the company was Lulu Tours. There was nobody there from them. And they were running about 3 different tours. And at least a lot of us kind of congregated together and say, are you with Lulu? Oh, yeah, we are too. Oh, we're taking this tour or that tour. Because they also had a city tour and they had a river tour. And everyone was just waiting for them to show up. Well, we were off the ship right when we were supposed to, just a little after 8 o'clock. We were supposed to meet them at 8:20. Finally, someone from the tour company showed up about 8:45. And they started dividing us up into the different tours. And we said, well, we're on the safari tour. And they said, okay, well, you have to wait because your van's not here.
And there were 6 of us.
And there were 6 of us.
That we were expecting a Jeep to take us out to the safari.
That's what was listed in the description of the guide, a Jeep SUV to take us. And then they said, oh, we're not getting your bus. And we said, well, why are we getting a bus? And then we suddenly realized there's 9 more people they've added to this tour. And, we're kind of waiting, and finally a minibus shows up. We get on the bus, we wait, and then finally about 9:30 or so, we finally left the port area. Now, this is what we think is interesting. So as we mentioned, we've been standing around watching and waiting as other tours are leaving. Well, the Royal Caribbean tours, which, by the way, were upwards of $400 to $500 a person for a simple city tour.
Horribly expensive.
They pull out of the port, out of the gates. Their buses picked them up right by the ship, and they had police escorts, sirens, black SUVs surrounding these big buses, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's like, where have they stopped that to take a simple bus city tour, you've got to have a police escort? This
Well,
just didn't seem
and
right.
we're standing in the square. There is security in the square. There
Mm-hmm.
are children that would come up and approach, and you could see them
Mm-hmm.
looking at back pockets, and
Mm-hmm.
security would kind of shoo them away, and then they
Yeah.
shortly after they'd come back again,
Right.
and then kind of surround you, and so
Yeah.
a little unnerving.
It was. But we got on our bus and
We
we're
did.
thinking to ourselves, well, we don't have a police escort.
Nope.
And so finally we leave at 9:30, and the young lady who's the guide, she's on the bus. There's two other gentlemen and the driver. So there's four representatives of the tour company there. The two guys, they never really said anything. We think they probably didn't speak English, but they were taking pictures of us the whole time. And we think it was for like a social media campaign for their company, to show, oh, look, there's tourists coming to Angola. And the young lady said it would be about an hour to get to the park. And we started driving, and one of the first things that I noticed, we pulled into a gas station. So you would think they'd be all ready and set with the buses, and we'd already been waiting quite a bit of time past the time our tour was supposed to start. However, we all got in line, and the interesting part was ours was not the only one. You can see here this line of tour buses, and they're all pulling up and putting gas in one at a time. We're not quite sure why they did that. Maybe they had to actually wait for the cash, for the people that paid
Maybe.
cash for the tours to
Yeah.
fill up with gas. We're not sure. But the other thing that we found was interesting is you look to the left of where we're filling up, and there's a guard there with an AK-47 guarding the convenience store and the gas pump. So, once again, this is like, well, what have we kind of got ourselves into? Everything from the royal buses with sirens and guards to this, and so it's a little bit unnerving. But we did get our fuel. We all got loaded back up. Some people did use the restroom there, and we got back on the road, and we're heading to our first stop. But we passed one of the sites we were supposed to see, and that's called the Moonscape. It's one of the most famous sites in Angola, and I booked this tour partly because we would get to see
That was included.
Right. And I
yes.
asked her, I said, oh, are we going to stop at the Moonscape? She goes, no, we have no time today to do that. And I'm like, okay.
There
And-
were multiple things on this tour
Yeah.
that were supposed to be included.
Right.
and So
Yes.
but we're running late.
So we get to the entrance of the park now in 2 hours, not 1 hour. Times now it's about 11:30, and we finally get to the gates of the park. And again, all of us, we're very cognizant of all aboard time. All aboard time for the ship, drop dead, was 5 o'clock. We had to be back at that square by 5 o'clock.
So we like to be back by 4:30, and
Mm-hmm.
so it gives us a little buffer. If the flat tire happens, we've got a little bit of a safety net there. But but yeah, we get to the gate, and our guide, the lady, hops out, and she's on the phone. She's on the phone for 15 minutes before they'll open the gate, and
And we're still on this mini
We're still in the
van.
bus.
Yeah, this mini
It's
bus.
falling apart.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
but we did get in, and now we're on this really rough road. And she's telling us it's just ahead. We think we're getting to a lodge where we're going to be getting onto jeeps to take us on the safari. And she keeps saying, it's just ahead. It's just ahead.
Meanwhile, we're on
Be
this
happy,
washboarded,
be happy.
this washboard road getting banged up, and literally, like you said, the minibus is falling apart. In fact, at one point, a piece of the roof structure fell off and fell at the feet of the people behind us, and luckily it didn't hit anybody. And
I could
it's
see holes
rattling.
in the floorboard.
That's
looking
right.
down to the ground.
Yeah.
Daylight was shining through the floorboards.
Right, and this thing is getting rattled and shaken all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, it's now an hour and a half later on this rough washboardy road, and we're thinking, oh my gosh, we're out in the middle of nowhere in a van that's falling apart, and now we're 3.5 hours away from the port, and we're all running the numbers going, well, if it's going to be 3.5 hours back, we will not get back to the port till 4:30, and all aboard, as we just mentioned, is 5 o'clock, and we told the guide, we're out of time. You've got to turn around and take us back. And she said, oh, no, the lodge is just ahead. We'll have your safari.
And they just kept going.
And finally, we literally mutinied. Several people, to be blunt, and I feel a little bad about this, had to raise our voices and say, you've got to stop this van and turn around now.
And at first they didn't.
Yeah.
And that I think was when we all got really, really scared at that point.
We're like, you can't just keep driving out further into this national park. And, I as kindly as I could, took, the young lady, and I said, listen, you've got to understand, if we're not at that port at 5 p.m., the ship leaves us. It departs. It will not wait for us. And she kind of looked like, oh, well, no, they won't do that. And it's like, yes, they will. and you've got to turn around now and start getting specs. So she called what she said was her boss. She asked permission, and we're like, you don't have to ask permission. You've got to turn around now. And so finally, after another,
the bus stopped, and it just sat there. We were just sitting there while she was on the phone, and it's like there's no debate on this.
And one of the park rangers drove by in a Jeep out on this road, and I, of course we don't speak Portuguese, but you could tell he was asking, is everything okay? And they said, yeah, it's, and then we turned around and we started heading back. Well, now the driver was much less careful, let's just put it this way, on the road. And I think they were kind of upset because they didn't get to give us the tour, and he drove like crazy on this road. And, we instead of taking an hour and a half, we got back in about an hour and 15 minutes to the main road. And then we started heading into town, and, the young lady is upset, the people on the bus are upset, and, we start going. Well, now we're 5.5 hours into this tour, so it's been another 2 hours, and she finally says, well, is it okay if we have a bathroom stop? And we're all like, please. It's been 5.5 hours on this bus with no bathroom stop. Yeah. And here is the shining star of this tour. As we say, we always try to find the good in things. And we stopped at the Moonscape to go to the bathroom. So we pulled over. We went. There was a small outdoor bathroom there. We went there, and then we got to take pictures of the Moonscape that you can see here. And it actually is quite beautiful. It's a beautiful geological formation. The way that the cliffs erode, and with the water coming down to the ocean. And so, check a box here. We did get to see the Moonscape.
You checked the tires on the van while we were there.
I did. I happened to be going back to the van, and I glanced down and I look and I say, that doesn't look right. And I looked at one tire and it was missing a lug nut. And I go, well, and then I look at the next one. It's like, oh, that one's missing a lug nut. And so I get my camera out and I walk around to the back to one of the other tires, and it's not just missing a lug nut, it's also missing a lug on the wheels. So, I mean, this van could have
fallen apart.
The wheels could have, especially that back wheel, no lug and missing a lug nut, could have come off at any time. We were just, oh my gosh. And so we get back in the van and we're thinking, okay, at least it's just a paved road and we kind of know where we're at. And we start heading into town, and she's like, well, would you like to stop at the museum? We're like, no, you've got to get us back. And, so finally we did get back to the port, and we did get back about 3:45 to 4 o'clock because they drove a lot faster going back.
They did.
They had no traffic.
And they had no brakes going. They did have brakes, but not very good.
Yeah,
brakes.
you can probably see here. We did take a little video. There was a large cattle truck in front of us, and we were kind of up to the front. And as we're coming up on this cattle truck, I could actually hear the driver banging the brake pedal into the floor as he's trying to pump the brakes up to get some brakes to keep from hitting the cattle truck. And we finally kind of jerked to a stop, and it was just
the whole thing.
One thing after another
unnerving.
after another.
I mean, but it was just, here we were into this animal park, or this national park, and just the communication was just so poor, and it's 3 men and 1 woman, and then all of us passengers, and it was just unnerving. We didn't know when this was going to end.
Right. This has been the first time, as you said, we really kind of got worried about making it back to the ship, what's going on,
what's going to happen to us.
And so, but thank the good Lord, we got back okay. We, in fact, made it back with about an hour to spare. As I said, they drove a lot faster going back, and we got back. So, but you can see there's no way, if we had not had them turn the van around with this timeline we gave you, we would not have made it back. If we'd have made it to the lodge, let's say the lodge was under 15 minutes ahead, we would have maybe had a bathroom stop, got back on, and then we would have had to convince them, you can't take us on a safari, you've got to take us back.
Right.
But that is a little bit of lesson learned here. Make sure you're monitoring your time, and your tour is your tour. You're in charge. You've paid for this guide or this company to take you to a place, and if things are going awry, you need to speak up and not be afraid, and go ahead and make sure that things are happening, especially on a cruise ship that will not wait for you.
Right. Well, to wrap things up with this tour, we did file a complaint with Get Your Guide, who was working through the Lulu tours, and we ended up getting half of our money back.
Yeah, we did. So Made it back okay. By the way, there was another van that was going on the city tour, and on their way out to, they were actually right in front of us on to the Moonscape. They got a flat tire, and so these vans were not, and it was through another company, and it was not a royal tour, and yeah, it was just interesting. So the wrap up here, I think, is we're very sorry because I think the people of Angola and Luanda could use our tourism dollars. I think
Sure.
I think it would be great for their business, their economy, their jobs. Tourism dollars, could really help them, but they're really not quite ready yet. I think
That's
they've
right.
got some work to do to make sure it's a bit of a chicken and egg, right? That and so. That's. I don't think we probably don't have to go through well, would you go back to Angola?
Oh, heck no.
Yeah,
No.
this unfortunately timing was just
Wow.
not there. They just didn't understand the timing they had
We
to
just
do.
didn't
So,
know
and we didn't know.
we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, and that's very difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, we got back on board, and as we were looking back over the town of Luanda, we noticed a fire in the town, or on the hillside there, and there's homes there. And this wasn't just a little fire; this was a big fire, and the fire was growing. It was like,
It was
what
crawling
a
up the hillside.
what a way to end the day. That the city catches on fire.
The
Now,
city goes to burn down. Oh my gosh.
now, I hope and pray nobody was
I know.
injured. I hope nobody lost their homes in this fire, but it was not good. So
Yeah,
just,
and it was, as you can see, it was a big fire.
what a way to end the day.
What a way to end this day. The town burns down. So we
All right.
made it back to the ship, got back on board,
Yeah.
and we have a couple sea days after this.
We did. We had a couple of fun days after this. The very first sea day, as you recall in a previous video, we had a poker pub crawl, and I was the winner with an ace high flush. So that meant we had to put this one on. So we put on a poker pub crawl on the first sea day that we had, and we had a great turnout, and I think everyone had a lot of fun on that day.
But
And
unfortunately, one of our friends won, so now we have to help put it on again. So-
we're gonna help them out.
yeah, we're going to help them out as well. But that was a lot of fun. And then the next day was also a bit of a special day.
It was. It's our anniversary.
It was
so-
36 years we've been married. Thank you very much for putting up with me that long.
Thank you for putting up with me.
No. So we went out to a nice dinner.
We did. Mike took me out to dinner on the cruise ship. He took me to Azumi's, and we had sushi, and it was wonderful.
And some of our friends actually went and decorated the table a little bit, and
Yeah.
it was so nice. And they sang for us and had a little bit of special dessert. And then when we got back to our cabin, our friends had mentioned to the ship that it was our anniversary, and we had a swan and a
Right,
little
the
magnet.
swans in the shape of a heart, and a magnet, which is now on the cabin door.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very sweet, wishing
Yeah.
us a happy anniversary.
Yeah, it was.
Well, our next stop is going to be Takoradi in Ghana. And Mike, tell them what we're going to do there.
Well, we've hired a private guide who's going to take us through the Takoradi area, and we're going to learn the very difficult history of the slave trade through Ghana and actually through West Africa. And it's quite a moving experience.
Yes,
Very
and
moving.
fascinating. Thank you, friends, for watching and for listening to our tale of woe here.
And we promise some
Here in
upcoming
Angola.
ports here. You're going to love the experiences we have.
That's right. All right. You have a beautiful day. We'll see you soon, friends.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.